What's up, folks? MC is in the house. Give you guys a couple of seconds to jump on. Got some good stuff to talk about today. And all right, guys are jumping on now as we speak. Good. All right, it's looking good. Been a bit since I jumped on, so I figured it'd be cool to make that happen. Brian Wilton, what's up, brother man? Good to see you. What's up, Eric? All right, just want to make sure that audio's good, video's good. What's up, Big Chad? Everybody just give me a thumbs up or comment that everything looks good. You could see me and hear me fine. Big Kevin, what's up? Ricardo. Bill, what's up, my man? What's up, Marlo? All right. Good to see you guys jumping on. All right. All right, let's get started. We got some stuff to talk about. I appreciate you guys jumping on with me. Middle of the day. Baird, what's up, my friend? What's up, Austin? All right. You guys are awesome. Big DJ, what's going on, brother? What's up, Mark? Okay, so a couple things to talk about today. Alliance, posers, no excuses, life and lifestyle. It is it's a topic that, or a bunch of different topics that are very much connected. And I've learned over the years that those times where maybe in times past I would have been aggravated, throw something across the room, maybe yell at somebody, maybe thrown somebody across the room. I've now learned to sort of sit back and sort of dissect these things that often become frustrating to me and figure out how to better leverage them, how to better sort of create these formulas that I could transfer to other people. And when you talk about alliances, I really think that is a huge step for most people on how to sort of put not only their own lives in better positions, but to also become more congruent with all the other things that they claim to stand for, if they're representative of strength and a natural life, etc. The pressure to power model is one that I certainly did not create, but I will say that as of late I've been hearing many different variations of it's all very much congruent. It's all rooted in a very, very strong, logical, powerful worldview and perspective of reality. All right, I'm starting to sound like a swami. Let's get down to business. So alliance, a couple things that recently I've noticed, and I will say, the majority of you, unfortunately, I only know through social media. I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible, preferably doing strong things, alliance building type events and exercises. But for some of you, it's really just been through social media. So I'm going to use that sort of context to describe and illustrate the things that I'm talking about. So first off, alliance. What is alliance? Alliance is two identities. It could be an individual. It could be a group. It could be a group and an individual. A lot of different ways to sort of look at it. But it's two identities who decide to sort of share a mission. And the rules of a proper alliance are, number one, you focus on the mission. The mission is the goal. When you deal with each other, it should be in pursuit of that mission. So that's the first part of an alliance. And the second thing is respecting the expiration date. Understanding that if you do have a mission that is written down, that is sort of put forth as your goal, the purpose for the alliance, you could say, as soon as that is met, the initial need, desire, reason, argument, logic behind the alliance is now gone. And I'm not saying that as soon as that should happen in a general sense that you should begin, you should separate again. and become two separate identities. But what I am saying is that without respecting that, you lose sight of why you got together in the first place, right? And this could be said for a man at his job, a man and his wife. It could be said for two different groups of individuals that started hanging out, no longer hang out. It could be, a guy going off to school and making all of these friendships in school and then coming back to the real world. I recall one time going to, I'm going to get in trouble for this, going to I used to work at a camp, right? And it was a sleepaway camp. And we were gone for like 2 months. And some of the people on this might actually be people who were in the camp with me. But it was about 2 months where we were pretty much away from society. And I was in my late teens at the time. And, I got to say, when you are alone with with the same amount of people for 2 months, some of the young ladies, it's really magical. They really start to become more and more attractive, right? So I recall spending time with one young lady in particular during the course of the summer. And everything seemed to be fine right up until camp was over and we went back to reality. And for some reason, the magic sort of wore off. Right? Now, for me, it was like something that was drawn out over 2 months. But for some people, you may experience that. A night in a club, right? Beer goggles and whatnot. Well, I had camp goggles, I guess you could call it. If you guys have ever experienced that, do me a favor and press like. If you're a young lady who has ever had that happen to you, press the angry face. But I learned early on that respecting expiration dates is very, very important, and a much misunderstood aspect of alliance. But what I see on social media a lot of times, I see a lot of thumbs up. What I see on social media a lot of times is people becoming a part of an identity, people becoming a part of a group, a friendship, a circle, a movement, whatever it is, and not understanding that, when you are part of this group, it is in the context, the setting of a social media perspective, right? It's the world of the internet in which you are actually, allied with this other identity, be it an individual or a group. And what I see are people who are looking to sort of implement identities that they belong to, for the most part, completely online, and they're looking to sort of install these identities into their regular lives. And the irony is, the individuals who they are allied with online have nothing to do with them in the real world. So I would implore people that if you are looking to create congruent, powerful, natural alliances, you need to make sure that the internet tribes stay on the internet, right? That's what they are. It is an internet tribe to which you belong. However, if the tribe that you are a member of or the alliance that you have formed online is something that you very much would like to transcend the online world into your real life, understand those alliances will only exist as a result of the efforts you put forth off the internet. If you do not meet people, these people are not your friends. There is something to be said for an internet friend, but looking at my Facebook right now on the Master Chim page, I have almost 60,000 friends. I cannot remember the names of more than 300-400 people maximum. I cannot maintain strong social tribal bonds with more than 150-200 of them. So this whole notion of I belong to a tribe of individuals who are friends of mine, but this exists completely on the internet, understand that that is so far removed from actually being a real thing that chances are what you're going to do is you're going to allow this sort of virtual world, this virtual alliance, this virtual tribe, this virtual identity of yours to pull away from what's actually most effective in the real world. Okay? So I'm going to segue somewhat, being that I'm talking about this, into the concept of posers. Okay? So posers. Posers is something that, growing up in the Bronx, it's not a term that we really used, right? It's not something we spoke about. It was not in the vernacular of the hood. but it's something that in my adult life has been very, very useful and been used with quite effect to illustrate people who want to sort of adorn the facade of an identity without actually embodying it. Okay, so I will give you an example of this. Okay, if you are somebody who likes to who likes to display a very masculine, violent, powerful, almost barbarian type identity, but you don't actually do the things necessary to display that or to embody that, to become that identity, you are a poser. Okay, now I will say, I know, and I'm not going to use myself as an example. I will use friends of mine, brothers of mine, who come from the more, how do I put this, super, super powerful men who have been tasked in their adult lives with displaying, instituting, enforcing, enacting some of the most violent acts that people nowadays will ever be exposed to, right? So friends of mine who are the guys who do the deeds, right? These are guys that, you know, we talk about, we honor in memes online, they make movies about, et cetera, et cetera. Well, for some reason, these guys, and I know quite a few of them, they're not walking around with shirts that challenge strangers to fights. They're not walking around, mean mugging people. They're not walking around looking to make sure that everybody respects their masculinity and their, violent, facade, their violent advertisement, right? Some of these people are the most humble, down-to-earth, squared away individuals that I know. Quite a few of them are very, very close to me. And I will say that they've always served as great role models for what would seem as a paradox, what would appear to be paradoxical. It's almost like these people have been through so much, they've done so much, they're capable of so much, but for some reason, it's not being displayed and communicated in the appearance that they maintain and the energy that they exude to other people. And I would think, and there was a time where I would think it was paradoxical. It didn't make sense. It was seemingly contrary, in its identities or in its value. But what I've learned over time is when you are living a natural life, it is very much congruent how these people are. I will say the posers are the paradoxes. The posers are the ones who want to display the symptoms without actually having the condition. Okay, so we all remember being children at one point, where we didn't want to go to school. Maybe we didn't want to face the music of a report we didn't do. We didn't. Some of you, didn't want to face a kid who was looking to kick your ass. Some of you, not me, but but some of you had a reason for not wanting to go to school. And what did you do? You started walking around like this in front of your parents. You started saying you felt hot, your throat hurt, your stomach hurt. All these things that your parents probably couldn't call you a liar for. They had to sort of take your word on it. And you were when it came to being sick, a poser, right? That's what you were. You were trying to display the symptoms to somehow communicate to other people that you had the condition. Well, when it comes to strong masculinity, when it comes to having a relationship with violence, when it comes to being squared away with, a tribe and living a natural life, the symptoms are a byproduct of the condition. You become this before you show that you are this. I just spoke about people who are the highest levels of this type of identity. And they're not talking about, oh yeah, I can't wait to kill this guy, or I killed this guy, or I'm going to fuck this dude up, and I'm going to punch this guy in the face, and these fucking guys better respect me, and, fuck everybody who's not one of us. And they're not doing that for some reason. What are they doing? They're saying, hey, let's get the families together for a barbecue. They're saying, hey man, how your kids doing? They're saying, yeah, we should go do some training, whether it's shooting, whether it's combatives, sort of training. They're saying, hey, I just read this book and I thought it was pretty cool. Did you read it? Let's talk about it. These are the things that they're saying. And I had to check myself many, many times over these past few years, because I was somebody who, grew up very violently, grew up wanting to engage people in violence, but never really interested in just having people look at me as that identity. Really being that identity, and as time went on, looking to get rid of the effect that I was having on people, knowing that it wasn't very, very effective. So I would say when you look at a natural life, number one, it needs to happen in a natural world. So those individuals, and I'm using the internet example, right, the context of the internet tribes and alliances to really illustrate a greater point. But there are a lot of people who will see this video to which the internet example very, very specifically applies. Now, so if you are somebody that's living a natural life, you're doing it in a natural world, the symptoms, right, or those characteristics that other people could see of an individual's identity is a byproduct of the condition. It's a byproduct of actually being, the thing. I say all the time, I recall, if you guys remember during my PressureCon talk, the video that I did on different groups and how, I was speaking about PTSD and depression, how when it comes to what's happening with these individuals that are finding it difficult to sort of become congruent with other identities, maybe post service and whatnot, or anybody that's into that's in a sort of mental funk. I talked about ritual. I talked about doing the things. I never talked about displaying the things. I never said, listen, if you are somebody who's, throughout his whole life getting just ragdolled by other people, bullied in school and, intimidated in the workplace and, not able to sort of, get a word in edgewise in social settings, I will never tell somebody, well, what you need to do is you need to sort of look tough and you need to sort of act. No, I'm going to tell you to train. I'm going to tell you to do the things that the identities that you want to become, you want to be a part of, you want to, embody. I'm going to tell you to do the things that they do. Right? If you're somebody who is dealing with depression, I'm not going to tell you to act happy. I'm not going to tell you, listen, smile a lot and, tell jokes. And no, because we all have plenty of stories, both, famous individuals or, personal anecdotes. I know I've collected quite a few of people who off themselves, who right up until you heard about them doing it, seemed like they didn't have a care in the world. Didn't seem like they had a problem. If any of you guys know somebody who has, done that to themselves and it's something that, you've heard about where like I had no idea, do me a favor and press like, because I know it's not just me. And when you look at those people who good, there's a bunch of them there, appreciate it. When you look at the people who are displaying that, when you look at the people, who are acting a certain way, what winds up happening is they start giving more and more energy. They start diverting more and more energy toward looking like an identity. And it gives them less time and energy to actually do the things necessary, the rituals necessary to actually become the identity. And that's the danger with being a poser. There are plenty of times. I recall a time where, it makes sense to display another identity. I remember, I don't know if I spoke about it on, I should probably make this an Goji during one of the radio shows, but I remember being at a bus stop in Allentown, Pennsylvania. I was working my way towards Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, and by bus. And I was at a bus stop, and I went to go get something to eat at like a chicken spot somewhere in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And I was basically getting scoped out by three dudes there who I knew, as I was sitting and eating, I knew were starting to communicate towards one another that, I was the guy with the target on my head. I probably would have been jumped and attempted to be robbed and what have you. And what I did was, after speaking to them or hearing them talk for a while, I was by myself. I finished my meal. I got up and I started acting like I had cerebral palsy, and I started walking like. I worked for years in a camp for handicapped children, and I could do a very good cerebral palsy impression, right? Having worked with some of these awesome kids for all the years that I did, and I got up, and a lot of them, or the three of them, looked at me like, immediately I just threw them off, and they immediately were disarmed. I diffused all that tension and completely removed their desire to do anything, right? And I made my way to the bus like that, got on the bus without a problem. So there are certain times where tactically, you're going to adorn another identity. But we know the difference. We know that we're not doing that to sort of have people think we're a certain way. We're actually looking to influence a specific situation and scenario, right? So let me read some of these comments we got going on. All right, Monk says, as a disabled veteran, I think ritual that can help with dealing with PTSD, especially combat veterans. Well, yeah, it's one of these things that I think more and more people are starting to get in touch with. They're starting to understand that when it comes to, and I will say, I've been saying this for a long time, but you look at guys like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, you look at, the Stoics, of the ancient world. These are concepts that are as old as, philosophy itself, psychology itself. There are so many of us that understand these universals in other applications. But when it comes to those situations that really recruit our emotion, a lot of times we become clouded and we see things differently than what they actually are. Right? I have a friend of mine who, and hopefully he's watching. He's a great dude. I love him. Whether he knows it or not, made the Olympics, being a certain way. Made the Olympics in his, I believe, late 30s. He's old as shit, and but he made the Olympics by basically making a decision, and he plotted a course, a plan of action, a strategy, and he basically rammed it down everybody's throat. And he made the Olympic team. He didn't medal in the Olympics, nor did I think even he expect. But, what he accomplished, basically making the decision to make the Olympics, was done with a certain mindset. Now, fast forward to a lot of the social issues that America's facing right now, specifically, the racial tensions. You see him applying a different mindset. You see him applying a different worldview. And a lot of it has to do because, I would contend that his emotions are being, recruited in these discussions, in these ways that, he looks at reality. But, if you look at what he did athletically, it's like, man, like there's nothing that you're saying about what needs to be done socially that was seen in the decision you made to make the Olympic team. The decisions you made in making the Olympic team required or demanded an absolute no excuse type mindset, right? So to get into the no excuses mindset, I think this is one of the huge keys that people can implement into their lives that really, really would allow them to see reality for what it is, to see the situation for what it is, to see who they are, right? Without the, all of the different lenses, filters, and biases that our emotions tend to put in front of us. I am somebody who, to give a somewhat crass example, it's like if I'm walking around with a booger in my nose, number one, I expect my friends to say, yo, you got a booger in your nose. All right, but how many people have either been the person who had the booger, seen the person with the booger, and nobody wanted to say anything because of some sort of perceived embarrassment? Well, which is more embarrassing? Like telling the guy he's got a booger in his nose, or actually, allowing him to walk around with a booger in his nose all day. So a little bit of a lewd example, but you guys understand what I'm saying. When you have this mindset that actually being the condition, actually embodying the identity is what matters, you don't allow yourself to let anything convince you otherwise, right? I know that a lot of people, when we look at ego issues, right? People that have ego problems, people that want to be perceived as being more accomplished, more capable, more experienced, more more powerful than they actually are. What they'll actually do is they'll try and sort of control and manipulate the way people see them, the way that they communicate, so that they appear differently than what they actually are. So one of the things that, when it comes to copywriting and marketing your business, a lot of people, really do everything in their power to present themselves as being something more than what they actually are. Now, I understand there are certain sort of limitations to the way you can communicate if you're marketing your business. These people don't know you, they don't trust you, they don't know you're a good guy or good girl, they don't know that you actually are going to over-provide your services. But what you wind up doing, and this is the norm, the standard, is you wind up sort of over-representing what you're doing. You wind up speaking in a way that over-represents the things that you're going to provide for a potential client. And I will say that whereas I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with presenting yourself in your best possible light, right? Everybody goes and gets a haircut, and wears an out of the norm type outfit when they go on a date, right? As an example, I don't think that's wrong. I will say it's limited, right? So I, for one, am somebody who sometimes I would say maybe keeps it real a little bit past the point of diminishing returns in my life. But I am so paranoid about, falling into the trap, that I make sure that it never happens. If you guys want to get a good laugh and be entertained, go to my martial arts academy, Jungle Gym Martial Arts. Go to the Google reviews for my business. I tell you, if you read that, you would think, that I am an absolute just douchebag. You would think that I rob people, I intimidate people, I steal from people. But obviously it's not the case. Obviously, a lot of times the people who are leaving the reviews are people that are used to dealing with people a certain way, and it's not the way I deal with people. If you signed a contract, you're going to follow the contract. If you owe me money, I'm going to demand the money. If you threaten me with leaving a bad review, I say, well, listen, do what you feel is best. But I don't look to control things that are beyond, my actual control, right? So a no excuses lifestyle is allowing yourself to never look at reality in a way that is designed to make you feel better about it, right? When you look at, you can go to Marcus Aurelius's Meditations, look at letters from a Stoic, Seneca, and the different Stoic mindsets. They were masters of sort of setting themselves with the worldview, the mindset, to perceive reality in the most pure, raw sense possible. There was a time where, I remember my accountant called me once, and he said, all right, I got some bad news, right? Which I always resent. There is no bad news, good news, there's just news, right? So immediately, and I've spoken to him about this, right? He said, I have some bad news. I said, well, okay, what is it? And he said, it looks like you're going to owe, about $150,000 to the IRS. And they want it now. So I said, all right. And at the time, I remember going, okay, here it comes. Here comes the heart attack. It's going to explode. Right? I sat there, and I was like, all right, I don't feel anything. I guess this isn't going to kill me, so let's figure out how to make it happen. And we wound up, doing what we needed to do. And I did not owe that money. But I know other people would look at that and immediately start to design these stories about, how could the universe do this to me? Well, if you ask that question, your mind is going to find an answer for it, right? That's some Tony Robbins stuff right there. And so asking yourself the proper questions is of the utmost importance, especially, I would say even more so in those situations that tend to overwhelm us emotionally. When you get a call from your accountant saying you probably owe $150,000 to the IRS, that is a stress-inducing phone call, right? So it's important, more so in those times, that I just take it for what it is and say, well, there are things I can control, things I can't control, and I'm only going to focus on one, never the other, right? So when you have a no excuses lifestyle, you understand that I am completely responsible for all those things I can control, but I am never in any way, shape, or form at all responsible for any of those things that I can't control. Right? And when you have a no excuses lifestyle, you are constantly holding yourself accountable to remind yourself of that format of reality, right? Of the way, of that type of mindset, of that type of paradigm, right? So if you're on some sort of eating plan and you fall off of it, I was on a low carb diet, but then I went to a wedding, so I had some, so of course, I had to have some carbs. No, you were on a low carb eating plan, and you decided to not be on a low carb eating plan. The wedding, irrelevant. The situation, irrelevant. You got fired. All of that is irrelevant. You decided to do it. You decided to be on the eating plan, then you decided to be off the eating plan. There is no other player in this game, right? It is you, your conscious, your decision making. And when you have that no excuses lifestyle, you wind up having reps of these little instances of keeping it real to yourself, looking at your life and saying the things that I'm suffering from right now oftentimes are the result of the things that I've done leading up to this, right? I am the cause for so many of these effects. And when you are in conditions to which you did not play a role in the cause, you have to stop looking at those situations as if there is one, right? If it's raining outside, you had a picnic planned for Saturday, everybody's going to be there. You go there and it's raining. How could this happen to me? I'm so stupid. I never should have had it on Saturday. Like you start, you put yourself in a situation where you could either have a lot of good reps right now in this type of situation, or you could sort of succumb to the emotional, weight and overwhelm of, just being frustrated, by something not working out the way you would like it to. One of the things that I do as a coping mechanism, right, in my somewhat stoic approach to looking at my life, is when something happens that is a negative, the first thing I do is I say to myself or to somebody who's just given me, less than stellar news, I say, well, of course that happened, right? Hey, MC, they stole your car. Of course they did. Like no matter what it is, that's my first reaction. Right? Whenever people ask me, hey, how's it going? I always say exactly as it should be. The universe is always fair. I talk about what fairness is and, how people who think fairness is supposed to apply to them individually. And I call those people fairies, right? They think that everything's supposed to be fair to them by their own rules. But when we pay attention to the universal rules, we pay attention to what life is about, we understand that by and large, most of reality, the overwhelming majority of things in this universe are completely indifferent to our journeys. And when you tell yourself that enough to get to the point where you internalize it, you actually start to see things for what they are. And you stop getting bothered by the things that ultimately you have no say in, right, or say over, right? So let me get some questions going on here. I am trying. Okay, so I have I have you guys up on my regular screen and here also, because I hate that I always lose comments. I'll tell everybody, if you ever have a question for me, I want you to post it. If I don't see it, keep posting it. I will not get offended. All right? Eventually I'll do it. Big Joe Durden, what's up, brother? What's up, Gary? Josh, what's going on, my man? What's up, Jeremy? What's up, Derek? Man, you guys are awesome. A lot of you guys are here all the time. I appreciate it. Okay, I don't know where I am on this. Okay, Carl asks, how would you distinguish between a poser and one who's creating an ideal persona to work towards, i.e., fake it till they make it? Um, well, that's the whole thing. So, assuming, all right, so somebody who is, they say, right, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Nietzsche says, become who you are. I think a lot of times, by and large, it's not a matter of, you know, sort of faking it until you embody the thing. Although the phrase, has a hell of a zing to it. I would say that when you're looking at embodying or installing a certain identity into one's life, it's really a matter of start actually doing the rituals, but in the real world. I am not going to be somebody, let's say I want to play in the NBA one day. I am not going to wear an NBA uniform and start telling people that I play for the NBA. What I am going to do, however, is practice, train, do all the things necessary to embody that identity. So when it comes to installing these identities into our own lives, to sort of assuming these identities, it's very much a product of the RPS formula, right? Ritual, procreation, survival. But it's never just creating the facade, of that RPS formula. We have, when we are looking, I just got to refresh this quickly. We have, when we look at just adorning this identity to be perceived as such to others, we start getting into the slave mind, right? The slave morality, where other people's influence is going to dictate ultimately what we see ourselves as being. And we know that that's not the case. We know that that's not something that is going to be strong, powerful, or real if we're talking about really taking control over our own lives and the things that we can take control over. Right? Other people don't matter when it comes to who we are to ourselves, and that should be the goal. If we are looking to become something that we see as being virtuous and we see as being better, improved, more powerful, climbing something that represents a climb of our own ladder of power, then that's a very personal thing. And the rituals that we perform, that we're a part of, should be looked at as such, right? But faking it till we make it, it's a cool phrase, right? And one that I'd use, right? But this is the explanation for it to me, right? It's really not faking it in the sense of worrying about what other people see and having them see me as a certain thing, as much as it is doing the things necessary, to perform the ritual, right? So as an example, I'll give you another example. If somebody wants to become a vegan, right? Let's say that it's Monday. It is Monday. But let's just say I want to be a vegan, right? I think now, no. But let's just say, as an example, I want to be a vegan. And I woke up today, let's say I had a fucking barbecue rack of ribs, last night, and a whole bunch of other meat yesterday during the course of the day, and every day of my life prior to that, right? But I want to be a vegan. Well, today I woke up, I didn't have any meat. Somebody asked me, are you a vegan? I'm going to say yes. Well, I am, technically, right? I've only been a vegan for a day, but I'm not eating any meat right now, right? I don't want to eat meat going forward. So for right now, although I think most people would reject me saying that I'm a vegan based on just waking up one day and not eating meat that day, if I'm looking to embody that identity, don't really care, but would tell them, yeah, I am a vegan, even though, those are the circumstances surrounding it. So when I say fake it till you make it, I don't see it as a fake in a sense that, and I'm not defending that phrase, but I don't see it as fake as sort of misrepresenting who you are. Saying you're one thing but doing another. I really think it is just becoming or exclaiming to be a part of that identity or resembling that identity, even though we just are started the process towards really, becoming that identity, internally. Underdog. What's up, darling? How you doing? Ariel, haven't seen you in forever. Good to see you. Sam Stern, what's up? You're welcome, Carl. All right, let's see what else is going on here. Ricardo, Riddle of Steel 2 is coming. Yes, we're Oh, we're now not even a month out. We still have some spots left. Those of you that are interested in doing a knife forging class, we're doing the fall session of the Riddle of Steel, and it's up in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. If you're interested, send me a message. But we've done it before, and it's just an incredible experience. I'm looking forward to doing it again. Ricardo's going to be there, a couple other guys that are probably listening right now. Pretty cool. All right. What else is going on? David James Ballard, what's up, brother man? How you doing? All right. So let me answer some questions. Matt Campbell, you already got a spot. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. All right, what else we got going on? David Pelican says you have to chase down who you are through every action you decide to do in life. Yeah, I agree with that. I definitely agree with that. It's when you think of what Nietzsche said, written, become who you are. What is that if not a plea, a demand even to do the things that are congruent with the thing that you actually are. Who you are as an identity has a ritual that is connected to it, that is congruent to it. Well, if you are not performing that ritual, that is the disconnect. We talk about PTSD and depression. Therein lies the issue with so many people. Who they are and what they are and who they do, right? The act of who they're performing in a day-to-day basis is incongruent with who they see themselves as. And as that incongruence causes that disconnect, causes that anxiety, that controversy internally, and really leads to all those different problems. But the people that I've found and have experienced that have gone through those bouts of depression, it's really just a sort of a sickness, if you would, a bunch of symptoms of a root cause. That root cause being they're living in a way that doesn't match with who they actually are. And when they find a way to make those things congruent, a lot of those problems dissipate with that change. Paul Brown says, precisely, we are generally the cause of our own misery. Absolutely. I have a very good long-term memory. Short-term memory is terrible, but as much as I love doing quotes, I can never remember any quotes. But there is a quote. I remember how to paraphrase a lot of different quotes. There is a quote that talks about how we look at life and how everything that's out there exists, on its own. And our sort of, its effect on us is completely our own doing. So when we look at something and it makes us sad, we understand that we're the ones that are causing ourselves to be sad because there is no innate cause for that sadness external to our own minds, right? The quote, by the way, says that much more effectively than I just did, but I think everybody gets the point, right? Okay. Dave says, yes, self-improvement requires self-knowledge. Absolutely. It has to start there. If you're somebody who, I always use the airplane, loses cabin pressure and the masks fall down and they tell you, listen, you have to put the mask on yourself first. You could have an infant in your lap sleeping. Those masks fall down. It has to go on yourself first because if you are not squared away yourself, you are never going to be in a position to sort of help other people consistently. Well, when it comes to philosophy, the way we look at the world, our own self-image, it is absolutely the case. We have to find out who we are. We have to come to grips with who we are because a lot of us have to do a lot of things. Do me a favor, press like if you know there are things that you have to change, things that that you need to improve. and everybody should know that, right? Because that is life, right? That is the climb of the ladder. That is the journey that we're all on. It's all, finding out those things that we need to install, we need to become, we need to sort of get rid of. And our process of becoming more powerful is really a reflection. A lot of likes. I like seeing that. Is really a reflection on how much we could actually do to make that happen, right? So we have to look at life as nothing but a series of self-improvement, but it starts with us. And oftentimes, having relationships, having tribes, having alliances is really just a byproduct of our pursuit to become more individually. There are people who focus on that to past the point of diminishing returns, where they think they can be a loner. They think that they only have to worry about themselves, and you start losing sight of what actually matters when that happens, right? So you can go too far the other direction. Also, you could say, I'm somebody who, I'm a loner. I walk, I walk alone, and I don't need anybody. And all right, by the way, when you die, you're done, right? Two things I want in life: strong legacy and a good death. But that legacy, man, that is a key component to the purpose that I see myself as having in life. Who am I and what am I supposed to be doing? Well, number one, being congruent with who I am is a priority. But very much connected to that is the acknowledgement that I am a link on a chain that had links before me and will have links after me. I have 4 kids. There's a reason I have 4 kids, because I got to keep the legacy going. I have to make sure that my bloodline, which is a very, very physical, evolutionary, biological drive that we all have. Some of us more than others. Some of us have it and just choose not to embrace it. But when I look at life, it's having kids is always better than not having kids, right? Like, that is a universal. Having kids is better than not having kids. And that is just a function of who we are biologically. And I'm not saying if you don't have kids, your life is fucked up. What I'm saying is, even if you are somebody who does not embody every different aspect of what we see as powerful, you are going to be more powerful if you support the things that actually exist as being powerful, right? Does that make sense? I think it does. It did before I said it. But just because like if you're somebody who, let's just say, smokes cigarettes, right? Not smoking cigarettes is more healthy than smoking cigarettes, right? It's healthier than smoking cigarettes. And even if you smoke, if somebody asks you which is healthier, smoking or not smoking, if you are being congruent with the universe, you are going to say, well, not smoking is healthier, but I smoke, right? And that's just an example. So just because you're not somebody who has children, it doesn't mean that you are expected somehow, or you will be any of a lesser version of yourself if you said that, well, having children is better, because that's how we create tribe. That's how we create that connection, blood-wise, right? That is how we build our legacy biologically. So many people, when you get into the identity politics, when you get into the, I'm proud to be white, I'm proud to be European, and you have, I'm proud to be black, I'm proud to be, from Africa, I'm proud to be Asian, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are a lot of people who are at the forefront of the European identity, who are, exclaiming that, European pride and the merits, values, and virtues of being a descendant of the European people. They want to talk about all of the positives of that, but then you see that they don't even have children. And I'm not one who's, my wife would tell you, I'm not Mr. Romantic, right? But I'm certainly Mr. Functional, first and foremost. And if you're somebody who believes in, European pride and the pride of the European legacy and what we came from, and the design and construction of Western civilization, and I can go on and on and on. But you're not somebody who's looking to create the next generation of who you are and what you're about. There is a disconnect there, right? There is a contradiction there. I would say somebody who says on one hand that they should be proud in their ancestry and who they are, but on the other hand, does not put forth the idea that having children and creating the next generation is important. There is hypocrisy to be found there, right? There's incongruence, right? And that's one of my main issues with that, and people that are like that, right? So Doug, oh, it's a Aurelius meditation. Let me read it. It's probably awesome. If you are distressed by anything external, oh, you're the man, you found it. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. And that's from Meditations. Good. Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. I sort of explained the gist of it, right? I hope. Monk says, honor and loyalty are virtues that are becoming lost in today's America among the young. Well, you know, it's funny. Those of us that have siblings, just think about how much, barring, any extenuating circumstances, think about how loyal we are, to our siblings. Think about the things we would do for our siblings that we wouldn't do for any other people. It almost surpasses logic and reason, the lengths at which we would go to help, siblings of ours. The phrase unconditional love. It's really, you could swap that out and just say irrational love, right? Because we care about people beyond what really makes sense at the surface. But so much of that is based in a feeling of legacy, right? The strength of blood, having the same line, right, and the link, through time. And that is something that is very, I would say, primal, something that's very biological, something that is a product of our evolution, and it's something that needs to be embraced. So when we talk about why are we so close to these family members, well, now think about towns, villages, even countries, where there is this connection, obviously, dissipating somewhat as you get further away from your immediate household and family members, but there is this commonality, and we start to understand what this notion of loyalty is really based on. There's a biological loyalty that we have to family that needs to be embraced. Too often, I would say nowadays, the loyalty to a mission and to a identity is put forth as being, the end all be all of what loyalty should be. And I would say that, whereas certainly that's something that I would hold to be virtuous. We do ourselves a disservice when we ignore the inherent biological loyalty involved in family, right? Involved in having children and respecting the ancestors that came before you. So much power, has come from, studying the lessons that our ancestors have led for us, have left for us. But a part of that whole paradigm of power is understanding that one day our descendants will be looking at, to us for that same type of wisdom, right? And for those people who not only don't have children, but don't talk about, that people should be having children, and you even have the people who, I can't stand kids. There's little more that disgusts me when you have a grown person, especially a woman, who says, I can't stand kids. Kids aren't for me. You're a dysfunctional, fucking person. You are just a, it's like nature sharded in its pants when you were made, because there is nothing powerful that has existed for any respectable length of time that had that fucking mindset, right? But I digress. All right, guys, I've been going at it about an hour. I'm going to head out. You guys are awesome. It's the middle of the day. I figured I'd jump on. It's been a while since I did one. You guys know the Pressure Project Members is the member site for the Pressure Project. Hundreds of hours of content there. Check it out if you can. Memberships start at like $10 a month. You can cancel anytime. Those of you, I mentioned it earlier, if you're somebody who's interested in the fall session of the Riddle of Steel course, myself, Tuan Tom, will be taking you guys to an outdoor workshop in the Poconos, just an incredible environment, and we'll be taking these blocks of steel and transforming them into your own knives. At the end of the 3 days, you'll be walking away with your own blade, finished with a sheath that will also teach you how to make. Tuhan Bang Atienza will be there helping you guys with the sheathing. But it's just an incredible experience. If you're interested in checking it out, it's at the end of the month. Just give me a shout. Either send me a message on the messaging page or you could always send me an email at info@thepressureproject.com. All right, guys. I appreciate you guys hanging out. I will be on again in a couple of days. Go to either, make sure you check the notifications on the Master Chim page. I think it's like the upper right, like get notifications. And whenever I'm on, it'll send you something in your feed, send you a message, and you could join in the conversation. All right, men and women, I appreciate it, brothers and sisters. As always, pressure to power.